The monthly and bi-monthly are closing tonight, and in today's video, we'll be going over the date of which Bitcoin will be up only, or at least if history is anything to be going off of, which I do believe there is some very compelling evidence here that we'll be going over. Then there is a very specific date, which has been extremely relevant in that regard. Anyways, before we get into it, I should still let you know that there is just a little bit less than 24 hours left to get in with the 50% off on the first month of the Quant Prime service right here, which allows you to create, test, and automate your trades. And it's the same stuff that we've been showing over here, essentially allowing you to, create whatever strategy that you want, get backtesting results pretty much instantly, and then you can automate it as well if you want. The code itself for 50% off, if you just want to try it out, is Prime50. It's just Prime50 right there. You can try it out for a greatly reduced price. All right, sweet. So let's start it off. Let's start it off with the date, actually, and then we'll go through some November data here. But I wanted to, once again, highlight the importance of the date in which we've seen Bitcoin November lows. Now, if we look at all of the history of Bitcoin, then in general, we've seen the average come in around about day number 11 and a half. When we bifurcate that data between macro uptrend and macro downtrend, that average goes down significantly. I mean, when we look at the macro uptrend, obviously, because right now that is the case. And that goes down to about 7.5. But as you've noticed here, or probably noticed, maybe you're lobotomized, but these green cells here correlate to very specific times: 2012, 2016, 2020, and maybe 2024, which is what? Prior election years. And in these cases, we've seen the low come in for November on the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 2nd. So, basically the beginning of this week, of this coming week. So Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday, somewhere around there, perhaps we do see the low of Bitcoin. And in fact, this is something incredibly interesting, at least to me, because if we go over the October data again, where we did a similar study to this, we also found that, the lows for 2020 came in on the second day for that election year. And in 2016, also on the second day, again, of October for that election year. Now, the 2012 one came in significantly later. So, perhaps it's all a wash. And realistically, it's not that many databases, but I just thought it was interesting, and it might be interesting to you as well. So does Bitcoin see up only from then on? Who knows? But perhaps that would be a date to be aware of. Of course, kind of correlates well with the US elections, which we went over in yesterday's video, and maybe we'll go over again relatively soon, with regards to, markets like certainty, and they don't like uncertainty. And usually when you have uncertain times, like an election date coming up, which is likely going to drive markets, how does the market respond? It responds by going sideways and typically a little bit down. And then after, the election is resolved, assuming that we have a resolved election, have, the date of, which would be great. Then, things typically go up and to the right, at least in general, for US markets. And, people always like to make a big deal out of, like, if so-and-so gets elected, everything's going to dump. It's like, look, stock market's made new all-time highs regardless of who's fucking president for like the last 40 years, every fucking election year, or at least from there in everyone's presidency. You pretty much seen that. So I don't think it really matters who gets elected. Honestly, markets will continue to go up because that's just the way that they're designed. That's the way that they're programmed. Bitcoin November highs, however, typically coming in a little bit later in the month, especially during macro uptrends, usually coming in around actually the third week of November. But if we include all data, that number goes down significantly to around the second week. And then, of course, just a revisiting of the November monthly statistics, we can see that November has actually generally been a pretty good month for Bitcoin, with over 64.25% of November's closing positively from open to closure, or 9 out of 14. And the average return for those winning November months was around about 21%. The median of those was actually significantly lower at about 12.5%. Contrast that with the average loss and median loss, which are, more or less the same at around 17% or so. So, if we were to assume that Bitcoin closes somewhere around here, and I suspect that it probably will, maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower, but somewhere around 72, let's say. What does first the median win look like for November? That would be around 12.5%, which puts Bitcoin where? $81,500, remember that number later because it will pop back up. And if it does go for the greater of those, then, 21, 22, 23% puts Bitcoin close to about $88,000. And of course, if we do see a downside, which I think is a lot less likely here, but 17% to the downside would actually pretty much put Bitcoin back down below this month's lows, which would make me hilariously bearish. But I don't think that's what's going on here. I think the upside is still a lot more likely based off these statistics, and also one of the major setups that we've been referring to over here. Again, remember this 5-day setup still very much active, still very much viable, still very much available, I guess. This one opened at 62,836, and right now Bitcoin about $10,000 above that number, so not bad for the people who have been waiting or patiently in that one. And of course, when we go through the data on this one and we look at the performance summary, we can see that the average amount of bars in winning trades is 9 bars on a 5-day time frame is going to take us what from that opening, or take us where from that opening date of very early October. Well, 9 bars would put you 16th of November, which is pretty damn close to what we typically see on average for the macro uptrend highs right here. Again, might come a little bit later, might come a little bit sooner, but somewhere around there, similar to what we did see in October, is kind of going to be the same sort of playbook, in my opinion, for November. Lows early on in the month, highs later on in the month, and probably don't have to be too smart to be making money in this market right now, to be honest with you. Anyways, just visiting a few other things here while we are on the same page. Monthly time frame, again, closing tonight, is going to see monthly stochastic momentum bounce off of the critical zone, which you do see in strong trending moves, assuming today closes above 65,850. It's about a $7,000 move or so from the current position, or maybe closer to $6,000. Get possible, sure, but I would go out on a limb here and say you're probably going to see momentum remain to the upside coming into November, and that bodes well for the Bitcoin boulos. In fact, I'd be saying the same thing as before. The next time that we see the monthly stochastic momentum come back down and close very specifically below the critical zone, it's probably going to be the end of this market cycle. So it can stay up here for quite some time longer, similar to what we did see back on over in the 2017 run. This one stayed, pretty much there, about a year actually before it came back down, and just about perfectly timed the high as well. So the more recent one that we did see, it didn't stay up as long. It stayed up there for about 7 months, 6 to 7 months before coming back down. But, it's already spent a good portion above that region. It's going to very likely get another stint above that region as well. That likely puts in divergence, and then, at the very least, a big pullback. Maybe that pullback does, reaccumulate, put in a higher low, and then try again higher later. But there's going to be a very likely a big time of consolidation if that were to happen between the highs being put in that next sort of major consolidation phase. So I'll put out a video on that maybe over this weekend, maybe early next week, on kind of just cycle thoughts here. Bi-monthly time frame, again, also closing tonight. Very likely going to see this one continue up, assuming that Bitcoin closed today above 41,850. Again, this one has actually been pretty damn good at timing tops as well with any sort of momentum turns here. Or, sorry, not necessarily timing that, or pretty close to the top, but not necessarily the exact top in all cases. But again, the path of least resistance here is actually to the upside at this point, as Bitcoin has spent so much time in the last 6-7 months just trading sideways within this range, having little small moves here and there, filling every damn area out, which is what you want to see in a consolidation. And now it really does appear that we're seeing volatility actually expand for real in this case, as we do see volatility back around 25 percentile on the weekly time frame for the first time in, like 7 months, 6-7 months, been a long time. So I do expect that this run continues to go up from here, and maybe we see like a quick downside move to open up early this next week, sometime around elections, perhaps, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, whatever, doesn't really matter. Likely going to see the lows very early on, and then up from there. Again, tentatively speaking, $81,000 is an area is the first major area of interest, and then you got $88,000 as well, which I believe was also a target based off of the average returns for this strategy, which seems to be one of the bigger winning ones right now, as it has caught wind of a nice trending move, which is the exact purpose of this particular strategy. All right, cool. That's going to do it for me today. Nice and short and easy Thursday. We'll be back on tomorrow, Friday, for the first day of November. Oh, and fuck, it's Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween. Go trick or treat or whatever. I don't know. Anyways, as always, wishing the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.